Hey guys, welcome back to Next Level and another special guest interview, this time with the inimitable Dave Kenworthy from Unity Allstars. We're going to dive inside the mind of Dave, scary a thought as that might be. We're going to talk about his whole origin story, how he got into cheer, everything he's done over the years, the highs and lows of his career, and what it's like to be the bad guy sometimes. So it's a fascinating interview I know you're really going to enjoy. If you do, make sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel, put your comments down below. We'd love to hear what you think of all these interviews, and make sure you share everything with your friends and enjoy the interview. Okay, very excited today to be joined by another special guest, one I've been itching to talk to. This is going to be fun. Welcome, the one and only, thank goodness, Mr. All-Star Dave Kenworthy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Surviving the lockdown, thank you.
Yeah, survival is about all we can manage at this point.
Yeah. Well, I spend my days walking my dogs and rearranging furniture in my living room.
I mean, that's solid use of time. Yeah, you know.
I love it.
You haven't picked up any new skills over lockdown then?
Other than repositioning armchairs, no.
Like feng shui
Actually,
style?
no, I did try reupholstering a chaise lounge. Or is it Chase Lounge? God knows. Chaise lounge, that sounds fancy. Got a bit of fabric, well, Tesco's blankets and some needles. Went at it. It was awful. I had to throw it away.
The whole thing. Was it perfectly serviceable before and you ruined it?
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I just didn't like the colour. But I bought it in the sale, and all the shops are shut and you can't return anything at the moment. And last thing I want is cluttering the place away.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. So you haven't taken up baking or anything. So we shouldn't look forward to the great Dave Bake Off on Instagram anytime soon.
No. I'm an apt cooker. I can work Deliveroo and Uber Eats like the best of them.
You make a mean scrambled eggs, as I recall.
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, secret ingredients. Yeah, I'm good. Scrambled breakfast items. I can cook if I put myself to it, but I just can't be bothered. Not when Deliveroo's like quicker and easier.
Just too busy at the moment, clearly.
Well, everyone's like, oh,
busy
we
moving
spent
furniture.
so much money in the lockdown because we've got now to spend it on. I'm like, well, obviously you've not got Deliveroo because they service me with 3 meals a day.
Who are these people with too much? If there are people out there with too much money that they don't know what to do with it, some of us over here are just bleeding money over lockdown. So you're welcome to send it my way. I'll post the link to my pay site if you want. Okay, anyway, shall we get on to some actual sane conversation?
Fire away, cheerleading.
So,
how I've missed it.
So I always start by asking everybody, to run through their background in cheer and how they got started and, what they've done and where they've been and stuff. But I'm extra interested for you to do this one because I feel like a lot of people don't know your back. I mean, everyone knows Dave off of Unity and Dave off of Team England. But I'm not sure everybody really knows, where you came from and how you got into all this. So give us the rundown.
It started well before Unity and Team England. I was originally on a team called Mackenzie Wolves Cheerleaders, run by a lady, Christy Mackenzie Mitchison. She was American. And it was in Scarborough, my hometown. And Scarborough Fair is a real thing. We get the Scarborough Fair. And I was coming out the fair and I did a cartwheel. And this girl called Jo San, she was like, you should do cheerleading. And I was like, should I? I thought about it, so I thought, yeah, why not? I'd do anything. I rocked up to this community centre with your little PE mats and started me cheerleading. I was really good at the straddle jump, which I then found out was called a toe touch. And it just sort of like went from there. It was a really welcoming environment, made some friends at a point in my life where I suppose I'd moved from a small village to the town, so finding friends was obviously something I was planning to do, and this was a great resource for that. And we did a couple of competitions. It was all girl before I arrived, and then as I got there, a couple of other boys started joining. It was very small, just one team. We went to Winter Wonderland in, I think, either 2005 or 2006. Senior intermediate that came last. So we got on the coach back, and this was back when you get the coach, and we get the coach at midnight, drive all the way to London, do the cheerleading, get back on the coach and come all the way back for about £10.50. which was hard to find £10.50 back in the days. And yeah, then Christy left. She had to move to Manchester, so the cheerleading was no more. And my close friend, Jess Mortimer, and me were sat in, she worked in a restaurant, Mojo's Music Cafe, that did the most amazing chocolate flapjack. I could eat that by the bucket load. I miss that.
Sounds good, actually, yeah.
She was like, you know, we should step up, and she stepped up and she took on all the organization of the things. And I had really sort of taken a flair for the coaching and the choreography, and we decided, let's do it. So it was in that first instance, we sort of absorbed a lot of the kids from Mackenzie Wolves and we became East Coast Tigers. And me and Jess really sort of sat down and were like, all right, we didn't do very well as Mackenzie Wolves. We need to educate ourselves. And because all we knew of cheerleading was what the American lady had told us. And though she did have knowledge, we'd just taken it as gospel, and that's all we needed to know. But we discovered the Building from the Ground Up course, ran by Andy Wicks at the time. And I remember Andy Wicks, oh my goodness, yeah. I wasn't in love with him, but he was like my cheerleading idol at the time. And he ran
Revelations coming out here.
South Coast Zodiacs, and I just wanted to be just like them, like everything. If they crimped their hair, we crimped our hair. They were really, and he ran the Building from the Ground Up course. We went to that, and suddenly we knew there were rules, which we did not know before. So we read the rules. We had to just learn. We had to dive in deep, find resources, and teach ourselves. We still made loads of mistakes, like the amount of legalities we racked up that first year. But at least we know when it was illegal that, oh, well, we now understand that rule. And I think back then, that was how you kind of learnt the rules, whereas you get told off for doing them, and then you'd like, okay, that's what that meant. Because no one ever sit down and go, well, this is an inversion. This is a flip. You just get told you inverted. I didn't know what inverted meant until you got your penalty. And it used to be 10 points. Do you remember when it was 10 points?
Yeah. I'm just thinking the same things, you know, there's so much stuff. You get your cheer vocabulary eventually.
Yeah. One deduction for an illegal stunt and you're screwed, you're last. And we were gathering like 4 or 5. So we didn't do so well the first year. But then the second year, much better. We went to ICC Nationals. We came second against Stars Elite and Anna Jackson. And then they became the official enemy. They were the guys to beat in Senior Co-Ed 3.
No origin story is complete without finding your nemesis along the way.
Absolutely. Well, we then went in that second year. No, in the third year, the second year of East Coast Tigers, we got some new uniforms. I'd asked Tori Rubin where Unity got their music from. She was Tori Hardy then. And she'd recommended, I can't remember what it was called, but we got a really good music track. We thought we were the best things in the world. I worked super hard in my bedroom on the choreography. And we went to Heart of England, and we went on. It was all right. Stars Elite came out. They were so much better than us. However, one of the boys did a X out in level 3, which you can't do. So I started running around the arena screaming because I knew we didn't have any legalities. So we'd won because they'd got a deduction. Not that we were better.
Because one of their tumblers was too good.
Happy that they'd made a mistake that resulted in me winning. And it was the best day of my life. I loved it. And then 2 days later, I got a phone call from the owner of Future Cheer at the time. One of the owners, Andrea. And she had told me, I'm really sorry. You've also had a legality at the weekend, which was missed. And I was like, well, no, you can't take the trophy off us because we both got 10 points off and they were better. So 2 days later, we hadn't won. But I'd already told the local newspaper. So I was like, no, you can't. Like, I've told the Scarborough Evening News. And anyway, we kept the trophy because I weren't posting that back. And she was like, well, we'll update on our website. And I was back then, people were online enough, so I didn't care. So we didn't actually win. Then the following year, we went to ICC Nationals. Stars Elite had moved to level 4, so they're no longer a worry, and we won. It was brilliant. We were actually, I think, the highest score of the weekend in 2011, the senior co-ed 3 team because I think we beat the score of Unity Indigo that year, which was the first year of all girl. But that was the same year that halfway through that year in 2010-11, I left East Coast Tigers and moved to London and then joined the Unity family. Actually, no, I'd already joined Black by this point. So I'd been doing Unity Black and East Coast Tigers, because East Coast Tigers, I was still cheering with senior co-ed 3. And I really wanted to, go big time, go pro. I tried out for Aviator Allstars and they didn't want me. I'd phoned Ascension Eagles, they didn't want me. So Unity was my third choice, believe it or not. So,
last resort.
Well, it's really funny because I told Angela Green, obviously, who's in charge of Ascension Eagles now, who I work with really closely on Ascension Eagles. And she was like, I think she thinks she made a mistake not letting me on that team. Because, I could have been whipping him into shakedown at the Eagle factory. But no, it wasn't to be. And Aviators, because Aviators were based in Leeds and Unity trained down Milton Keynes, which I'm from the north, like 4 5-hour trip one way, whilst Davey would be like an hour. But anyway, I'm glad I did find Unity, which third choice, but it's worked out amazingly for me. But sometimes that's just the way the roles go. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in fate. You've got to, doors appear in front of you. You just got to be brave enough to walk through it. And
well, absolutely, because my life would be a completely different life if I hadn't have been accepted by Tory on Unity. And I was super keen. I followed them for the first season before joining. I turned up at Tory was like, "Oh, come watch us." The first ever Jamfest competition in Liverpool, like in 2009, 2000 something 10, I don't know. I don't think she actually expected me to take her up on the offer, but yeah, when I got on train, rocked up on a Riva Express to Liverpool, followed him around. That was the first day I met Coach Chinwei. I asked her to hold my hand and do a heel stretch for a photo. She wasn't about that. She did not enjoy that. It's really funny for you because you know Chinwei. She's like,
yeah, I could just imagine the face she pulled at you asking her to do a heel stretch.
And the rest is history, really. Been at Unity ever since, causing a ruckus wherever I go, which I really try not to.
It's funny because I remember that whole sort of period of you first being around. I remember you like appearing on Black and just thinking, who's this random? Because I was already in the States at the time, but I was visiting fairly regularly. And you were super keen and very young. So I can actually bear this in mind. But then I also remember, must have been a year or two later, actually coming back when you'd started coaching in the gym. And I don't even know if you know this, but I think I said to Tori, I was like, this guy's good. I'm like, he's a really good coach. I was like, I wanted to poach you, actually. I think I talked to her. I was like, you reckon he'd be interested in moving to the States? I don't know if you ever got, to the end of that. It never went anywhere, evidently. But
no. And obviously, my aversion to anything not British.
I do now.
Possible. Yeah. But to be honest, I think with the coaching, it's something I fell into. And I think sometimes I don't believe in like everyone's got a gift. Some people really are just useless at everything. And honestly, that was kind of me until I discovered cheerleading. And yeah, it's the rest is history. Half the time, even today, I have no idea what I'm doing. But somehow it just manages to work. And I thoroughly enjoy what I do. And I think I look at it now where obviously I'm sat at home doing nothing because I have no job at the moment because cheerleading's over. But if
temporarily
one sort of wrong turn, or if I hadn't have done a cartwheel coming out of the Scarborough Fair, I would not be sat in South London right now, living my dream, which is crazy. To think how these things, what cheerleading's provided for me and done for me is it's not tangible into words. It's the experiences. It's not bad paid as well, really, when you get all them private lessons in. But it really is a great. My life is just so much richer because of it.
So clearly, not everybody is useless at everything because you did find your gift. So perhaps the story is there's something there for everybody after all.
Well, I think the cheerleading is, I think it requires so many different skill sets, and you don't have to be. I think people think they have to be the master of everything. And I often say, especially when I'm working on Team England with like Floss and some of these amazing coaches. I've mastered none of cheerleading, not a single aspect of it. Am I the exceptional at any of it? I'm just trying to turn my hand and be a jack of all trades of every little bit, and be humble enough to know when I don't know enough, pause and seek advice. And I think people think that they have to be the best choreographer, best tumble coach, best stunt technician, best inspirational speaker, and you don't. You just need to be enthusiastic, and the rest you can learn. And if you can't learn, you can buy in. And if you can't buy in, phone a friend. Someone will help you.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's the beauty of the sport for athletes who talk about a lot. There's so many different roles and it's so varied. And one of the things I always loved about it as an athlete is that I felt like there was always new skills to learn. There was always something new. Like, you know, even if I felt like I could do all the stunts in the routine, there's new stunts out there to be learned. There's new skills to do. I could always get better at jumping. I could be a better performer. And it's kind of the same on the coaching side. You know, there are so many different elements to it. And something, you know, I talk to a lot of coaches about is doing that as an exercise, being able to analyze your strengths and weaknesses is maybe the first and most important thing you can do as a coach, is just know what you're good at and what you're not good at, where you need to improve, where you need to, you know, ask for help and everything else. And that's okay, because like you say, people get too worried that they need to do everything. And I talk to so many coaches who are overwhelmed, perhaps because they're running a program on their own and don't really have a lot of help. That is so overwhelming. But yeah, there's just so many sides to it.
I think as well, our sport is ever changing and new trends always evolving. And on this side of the pond, we always get the trend 2-3 years too late. And I think it's the last thing to be worrying about, to have everything under control, because the minute you think you've got it figured out, you know, the Americans decide to change all the rules in the age grid, and you know, you're then left picking up the pieces.
Well, I mean, who knows if it's the Americans anymore? I'm not sure who's in charge at this point. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's a heck of an origin story. Even I didn't know half of that. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you, no one knows this stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks you hatched out of an egg in Unity Gym or something. I don't know, but okay. So obviously, since then, you know, a lot's gone on with Unity. We'll sort of stick in that field. What have been for you your highs and lows, if you like, of your career? As a man who wears his highs and lows on his sleeve, let's be honest. What have been your real highs and lows, and how have you dealt with that? You know, how do you deal with the emotional roller coaster and that kind of thing?
Well, to start off, many of my friends accuse me of having Asperger's, because reading a room and reading other people's feelings is not something I'm in tune with. Whether that's true or not, I just find it difficult.
Low EQ, it's called.
As a result, I've often found myself to be quite jaded in certain situations. And I thought that I wasn't very emotional. I thought I was, you know, I don't really cry at movies, you know, I'm not emotional like that at all. But when it comes to cheerleading, I don't think I've cried. Honestly, the amount of times I've cried in front of Ruby, it's unreal. Cried my eyes out. And I didn't think I had that range of emotion, honestly. I didn't think I liked children. But apparently I love teaching and I care for these kids like they'd be part of my own family. My highs have to be in cheerleading. In terms of all-star cheerleading, would be the time we filmed the My Team, the Cheerleaders documentary with Pearl. One, we won all the events that were filmed. B, we looked great. And, you know, to top it off, it was just an incredible experience to share with the kids. It was fantastic. And in sort of cheerleading generally, I think most people would expect the first time we won the World Championships at ICU would be the best feeling ever. But honestly, I knew I'd won. It wasn't difficult to work out. We were much better than the rest of the world in the B division of the Worlds. But the best feeling I've ever had, and nothing has ever, and I don't think anything ever will match it, will be the time Team England, all girl, took the bronze medal.
It's funny because that's exactly what Zara was talking about the other day.
It is the first
It
time.
was epic, yeah.
First time we'd medalled, and I'd been doing Team England I'd done it the year before as well, and I was adamant that we were going to win that year, but we didn't. And then co-ed about 10 minutes later got announced as being a bronze medalist as well. And I can't even describe the rush of emotions that went through me. I was crying, I was screaming, then I was screaming again. Then I think I went to sleep smiling and woke up the next day wearing my medal. I wore it everywhere. I think I wore it for about 2 months solid. And I didn't actually lift a finger. All I did was shout at people. But nothing can describe that first time that you were recognized on the world stage as being good at your job.
Well, we had so much relief that year as well, because I mean, you weren't in the first year, were you? Was it the second?
So the first year was just co-ed, and as you know, I don't work with boys.
That's right. But it's the fact that we'd gone fifth, and
yeah,
you know, the first year we didn't really know what was going on. We were just giving it a shot, and we came fifth, and that sort of perked us up. So the second year we're like, oh well, we've got it figured out now. We saw what was going on, and we tried to do everything a particular way and still got fifth. So by the third year, we were just like, we're never going to win at this. And then we got third, and it was massive.
Was the first year of all girls. So second year of code was first year of all girl, and we both came fifth because all girl came fifth as well.
It just seemed to be our number at that point.
Yeah. So and then when we broke it, and we both broke it together, it was fantastic. What would have been great is if on that fourth year, both when all girl won, co-ed had won as well, but co-ed came silver. Yeah. That was a shame. I loved it.
Staying in the division longer,
isn't it? But it worked out. And then obviously when all girl won, they went level 6. I moved to start working with the junior team, which is I've loved it. We came second, and then the next year we then won again. And I got to watch the co-ed journey keep going, and then watch the level 6 journey start, and that was really nice to see. Flip side of that, my lows, there has been a few. Oh dear. I'm not sure if I should admit them publicly, but I suppose the one most people know about was the time I may or may not have been escorted from many venues. Oh dear. I think the thing is I've definitely learned from the experiences. I think I got to a point where I thought I knew everything. And I was adamant that I was always right. And if you didn't agree with me, you were wrong. And it was my mission on earth to correct you. And I just assumed people would be like, yeah, we're wrong. Really sorry, we'll change it. But they were like, no, there's not always. And that's the thing with cheerleading. You can watch a routine, think it was the best thing ever, watch it 3 weeks later and be like, that's wrong, I don't like that. It's so interpretive. And I often forgot that. I think it should be, there was a part of me that, in terms of like gymnastics, it should be black and white. But if it was that black and white, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. So yeah, they're definitely some of my lows, the arguing with judging panels and things like that most people know me for being outspoken. And people now have this, like, they think that I just wait at the deduction stand waiting to argue. And I could tell you that is not happening. Do I rush there immediately in a fury of panic whenever I get an email coming through? Yeah. But do I wait there with a tent and camp out? No, not at all. But I don't get annoyed, because I understand that some people just don't care in the same way I care about the score sheet, because as long as the kids have come off and they've enjoyed themselves, then that's job well done. And, at Unity, we have teams that, go on, they do their best. We congratulate that journey, and then we leave it there. If there is like legalities, we don't fight them tooth and nail. I don't work with those teams. I work with the ones that, honestly, these kids, if I were like, right, you need to bring in your home furnishings to sell so we can raise money and that'll get us more points, the kids would. Like, they'd give anything to win. And I really feel like if they get a deduction, it's my job to look at it and be like, okay, was that worthwhile? Has it been interpreted correctly by the deductions job? Because that's what they're asking us to do. They're asking us to proof them, because they understand that they make mistakes as well. If they didn't think that mistakes would happen, they wouldn't allow us to proof the scores. So I feel it's my job. If my kids are sacrificing and working as hard as they are, then I should also do my job and fact check for them. And if I'm not sure, ask the question, why did we get this? And that's most often what I'm doing when I'm at the stand. I'm like, why did we get this? Can you point it out to me? And then we most times have a civil discussion. Occasionally we don't see eye to eye and it's gone the wrong way. But I have started to move past that as I've got older. And I've tried to let go of that because I don't enjoy cheerleading as much as I used to enjoy it, unfortunately. It's become very serious, and it used to just be fun. It used to be, I used to get up on the stage and dance. I hadn't done that in a long time because it's become really serious, and I'm unsure whether I like that. It's not as fun. But then I also understand well, when it was fun, it wasn't paying my life. It wasn't my full-time job. So I sometimes wrestle with myself about how serious I take it. Should I take it this seriously and end up feeling these whirlwind of emotions? But at the same time, this is my life. This is my job. If this was the corporate world, not taking your job seriously would make you a fool. And I think that's difficult. And I think even some of the event providers find that difficult. They don't understand that you're not just rewarding kids' teams. You're almost sort of like backing backing my lifestyle, because we like to, I think there's a part of it where people like to win. And I feel like if we didn't win, all the children would leave the club. And I know that wouldn't happen because we offer so many things. Like, it's not just about the winning, but I think that plays on your mind when you're a competitive person, that should you lose a competition, all the children will decide they want to play golf and not do cheerleading anymore. And that's something I struggle with.
Do you really think that's what they'd go right to, is golf? That's the logical move.
It's a very classy sport.
That's true. I think you're right. I mean, there's definitely, for me, I think as a sport, we have this problem where we sit in between two things. You know, it's fun and it's recreational, and it's a kid's activity, but then on the other side there is a whole professional side to it, and we're elite athletes and we're taking it seriously, and we get stuck in this middle ground that makes a lot of these things difficult sometimes. So, you know, in competition scenario, you've got coaches who see even going to the score desk at all to query something as, you know, not the done thing. It's the thing that, you know, evil Dave does while he's camped out there with his score sheet or whatever. And then you've got, you know, exactly what you're saying was, it's, as a coach, the legalities and things are your responsibility, you know, other than performance error, which allegedly doesn't exist still. You know, getting things right and getting things legal are your responsibility as the coach. That's stuff you've put in. It's not things the kids have chosen to do, hopefully.
I think as aside from that as well, as coaches, and especially as a coach, what I see is see the sacrifice the parents make to facilitate their kids doing cheerleading. It's not cheap. Like, you have to buy a uniform. Like, uniforms, they're a bit of cotton and nylon with some sparkles on, and we're paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for these. Well, hundreds of thousands, that's crazy. We're paying hundreds of pounds.
What do Unity uniforms cost? This is a revelation.
I know, isn't it? But you're paying hundreds of pounds for this. And I'm like, in the real world, I'm like, well, no, I'm not paying over £200 for something unless it's Versace. And we're paying, there's that cost. Then there's the traveling to the competitions, the competition entry fees, then the cost of taking mum, dad, siblings, and the hotel. It really starts to add up. And I get really, really annoyed when you have paid all that money to get your child on that stage and then judges make mistakes. And I appreciate the human, but I've done the job myself. And there are ways that it could be prevented. And I think most of the times I've lost my temper is when there's been lots of mistakes. And I'm like, how is this allowed to happen? How is there not more due diligence with the amount of money that these families are spending and the sacrifices they've made? And I think that's the job where some people don't take it seriously. And yet cheerleading might not be serious, but money is serious. And if people are, you know, sacrificing, you know, one activity or another activity, or they're sacrificing a family holiday, which lots of our families do, to make Bournemouth their holiday to go to it, then I would want that event to be spectacular. And Future Tier do a fantastic job. Like, our families make it a holiday. And you know that really warms my heart when I'm seeing these families make Bournemouth a competition, a holiday for the family, so that they can facilitate their children's needs like that. Dora, up now and speaking. Sorry, my chihuahua. And because of that, that plays on the back of my mind all year at every event. Like, there are people going without so their kids can do this. And, you know, if there's mistakes, it really winds me up, which I know it shouldn't. And I appreciate we're human, but I like to think I'm not human, and that I'm some sort of, like, you know, perfect machine, which I know as I've got older is not true. So I'm past that. You'll never see me at the score desk again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many moving parts to the whole process of a competition, of course, you know, not just this is the hardest thing, I think, you know, your performance on the floor and, you know, your kids hitting their routine isn't the end all be all of everything. You can hit your routine and be perfect and have no deductions and everything else, but still not be the best team. Or you can do all of that and perhaps you are the best team, at least to your own eyes, and still not win. So, I mean, the subjectivity, you know, you talked about earlier is definitely something I wish people would appreciate more. Actual mistakes in the process, yes, I, you know, totally agree with you. It just,
But I will say that
strong systems that get rid
I've
of this.
never been at a UK event yet where the EPs haven't worked hard to fix mistakes. And I've not been at a point, knowing most of these people behind the scenes that are making these events run, like, they are doing the best that they can. And I think sometimes I have made their life more difficult. And I think that people sometimes forget the magnitude and the amount of moving parts that you're saying in these events. And it's a monster I wouldn't want to take on. And I am grateful for what they provide, because some of the events, like my favorites, are ICC Nationals and Bournemouth Nationals. And what they do for the kids and the experiences they give is worth the money. And it's the experience of competing at that stage and just being a cheerleader. It's lifelong. They'll take it forever. Working as a team, working towards a common goal. It is fantastic. So very grateful for all the EPs in the UK.
I think there's a lot to be said as well for the for coaches being educated and being smart about that process too, because one of the things that drives me mad is the sort of frivolous challenging of scores and trying to challenge things, you know, like ranges, like, you know, your score within a range, or creativity scores that you can't challenge. They're subjective scores, and people still trying to push that stuff because they don't agree with it. I think that's one thing I'd like to see from a professional side, is more people just understand that and be able to know what is and isn't right. You know, challenging a deduction that didn't happen, or challenging, you know, a numerical value that should have fallen in a different range or whatever. Absolutely, like, go for it. That's getting it right. And the judge's job is so hard. Some of those mistakes are going to happen. The amount of counting that they have to do.
I also think that people don't understand what happens on that panel sometimes, because I've sat there holding a Wii for an hour and a half. Like, it's a long day. It is exhausting.
Yeah,
I didn't think you could be tired sitting down all day, but it is. And I've yet to meet a judge that is, you know, out there to do you over, and hasn't got the team's back. I'm sure there are judges out there, but I've not yet met one, because, you know, that they are human. But most of the judges that I've interacted with, they want the best for the teams, and that they're just doing their job. At the end of the day, they're there to make money as well. Like, they're not judging for free. It's not a voluntary service. Like, a lot of these judges are doing this because they need the extra money in their lives, and they also are lovers of cheerleading that don't coach. Most of them, they love what they do. They might have coached before. They still want to stay connected to the sport, and providing the role of judging is fantastic. I'd love to be more like gymnastics, and FC Nationals is judged by, like, a panel of, you know, every gym submits a coach for judging that weekend. I'd much prefer it to be like that. But that's just not the sport we're in.
Yeah, that disconnect between coaching and judging is something that, I mean, I talk to people about all the time. You know, I would love for all coaches to judge and all judges to coach, because having that perspective on the score sheet from both sides, the perspective is different, and understanding how both go can help both so much. Judges who don't coach, yeah, I've seen difficulties with when on panel with them, and then coaches who don't understand the judging get a lot of gaps in their knowledge as well that leads to these issues.
Yeah, fair.
Let's move on anyway, because we'll get bogged down in this forever. So going back to coaching, let's get out of competition arenas, you know, where you're the bad guy, and into the gym where you're the good guy. Just briefly, what are some of your sort of underlying principles, philosophies, if you like, of your coaching, and how do you get the best out of all these athletes? Because you coach, I mean, I've seen you coach everything from level 1 through level 6, like now. So, you know, you're not just working with elite athletes, which some people might think that you're only working with Ruby. You know, you also, last time I talked to you, you were coaching senior 1. So
yeah, I've been on senior 1. I was flyer for a TikTok
infamous flyer. Yes.
Yeah, I've done it all. Based, flown, the lot. I think that's my number one principle, and I think people will find this very difficult to believe. Because I am a hard ass and I can be exceptionally firm. And I won't say that I'm not. But fun has to be at the heart of everything that I do. And it's not crazy for me to just stop practice to have a game of bench ball because, you know, I just want to play bench ball. Which to some people will be like, surely Unity Allstars does not stop to play a game of bench ball. Well, it does. Sometimes I'll get carried away playing bench ball for an hour. But the one thing is the only way that I'm able to be so tough on the kids and push them to the limits that I push them is because it's equally balanced with a mass amount of fun. I think the best example is I coach Peach, which is either Youth 2 or Youth 3. And obviously Peach is sort of like year 5 to year 7 in terms of school years. So they're young, they're still developing, but they're really hard workers. And I work them hard. Like they will go and go and go and go, and they will not step out of line. They're exceptionally well behaved, and I'm really tough on them, and I push them to their limits. And occasionally it ends in tears, and you know that breaks my heart. But at the same time, they know that if they do well, they're gonna. We have pizza parties. One time we found some leftover toilet roll, and we ran around dressing up as mummies and ghosts. Like we have a great balance of it's not cheerleading fun. I don't do fun cheerleading. If I'm doing cheerleading, it's serious. Anything that I'm doing that's fun is fun. I'm not going to make a game out of conditioning because conditioning isn't fun. I hate it. So we'll do some dancing, like we'll play some arts and crafts. We'll order Nutella pizza in, whatever they want. But what they know is when I'm coaching them is I care for them. It's not just about cheerleading because cheerleading is not all we do. We play games. We have real fun, and then we have really hard cheerleading. And I think having that culture with my teams allows me to be firmer and push them a little bit further than where I think coaches might hit a wall sometimes with how much they're trying to work the kids. I don't hit those walls often because the kids know that deep down, like I'm not there because I'm wanting to be a millionaire. I tell them all the time, you know, my grandma's had to pay for the Gucci bag. I'm doing this because I really enjoy cheerleading and I want them to excel. A selfish side of me is I want them to win because, you know, they are an extension and representative of me. But I do want them to just be great people. And I am very firm on discipline in the gym. Like there's to be no bullying, no singling out. I get really paranoid in the first few weeks. I make sure everyone's got a friend. Go to the older ones. I was like, you will be best friends with this person. And there's some of the things that I do in the gym. And it's, you know, sometimes I've gone too far the wrong way and too far the right way. I've spent an entire session playing bench ball. Then it's home time and completely lost track. I'm not a planner. I really do get in and we see what happens. And it kind of works. It's not worked yet. But yeah, I love it. My favorite age group to work with is youth by far. I say it all the time, but a youth kid, they can hurt themselves and you can tell them you are fine. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm fine. I can keep going. Obviously, I would never do that. That's not ethical. But they can be convinced of anything. You can convince youth kids that they are superheroes and they will leave the gym believing they're superheroes. World's teams, I wouldn't wish a world's team on a gym ever. if I could go back now and never fall in love with level 5, 6 cheerleading, I would, because the emotional turmoil that it brings, it is not worth the transaction. But I am now trapped. I am trapped between something I despise and something that I cherish with every fiber of my being. But it is not, if I could get out and never experience those emotions, I would, because I can't. If Ruby have a bad competition, or well, I've coached, if any of my world's teams have a bad competition, it's, I might not eat for a few days. I might cry the entire week. I will be exceptionally unkind to everyone I meet, even the bus driver, because it's rocked me to my soul. But it's not even a competition. That could be a bad practice. We could have a bad practice and I see the girls go home deflated and it crushes me because that was me. I let them down. And I take every win is theirs to enjoy, but every loss is my fault. And that comes to everyday practice. Every successful practice is because those girls worked hard. Every rough practice is I didn't plan. I didn't shift gears quick enough. I didn't do my job well enough. And it's really difficult because, you know, I'm taking a little bit of the reward from the ups, but I am feeling every crushing defeat on a weekly basis. And I honestly, I'm a little bit neurotic. Like we have a senior leadership team on Ruby, and I will quite often, if I felt the vibe of practice wasn't good, phone each of them, being like, what could we have done better? How did you feel it? And then next minute it's 2 a.m. I'm nowhere near sleeping because all I've done is go round in circles on how bad a job I did. But it's just the world's teams. Peach could have an awful practice. I'll be like, get over it, get out. But the world's teams, no, I will take that to my grave. It's awful.
It's
what
different.
would be worst enemy?
I mean, I always say the difference for athletes trying to get to world's level is just the psychology. The skill's different from, you know, isn't a massive jump. You can progress your skills to that level, but the psychology of dealing with just the stakes being higher around everything. If you're Ruby, for instance, you're the sort of flagship team of the program. So you represent a bit more than just being a team than every other team does, perhaps. And then when you've got things like earning a bid, whether it's on the horizon or it's that exact event you're at, or even actually being at Worlds or a national championship when you're expected to win, which you guys usually are, the psychology of dealing with that is just so much harder. And it's true for coaches too. I know exactly what you mean. You know, there are teams that the outcome, the expectation is different. So you don't invest in the same way. But when you're like, we'd messed it up this week, and that means we have to have another month of stress for the next World's Bid competition to try and win one, or, you know, it's, heaven forbid it's Worlds and that's our one shot, then, you know, it weighs heavy.
One thing from COVID is the fact that there haven't been any World Championships has been an absolute blessing because I hate it from start to finish. There's a few moments, don't get me wrong, there's a few moments that I enjoy, but generally I do not enjoy the World Championships. I don't like being out there. I don't like training. I don't like the sickness I feel from the minute I get off the plane till, you know, the results come in. And then the impending doom when you don't do as well as the year before. However, there was a shining moment. 2017 was the year Ruby came fifth. Team England All Girl won. And that was everything. I went to the Caribbean and it was amazing. That was the only time I can remember the World Championships out of the 8 times I've been, was the time that I enjoyed it. 1 of 8. Best World's journey has to have been first year Ruby or first year Royal. The year there are no expectations. The year where you are going for the first time. If the advice I would give to any coach taking a first year Worlds team, enjoy every single moment because it is downhill from there.
Just go that one time. Don't bother after that. Just
start a new team. Start a new team in a different division and begin the whole process again. Because those first times in the warm-up room with the kids that have never been and their faces are priceless. And the first time having their name called out on the world stage, priceless. The first time watching themselves back, even if they've fallen on their face, you know what? It's your first time. You couldn't have done any better. Then you fast forward
Unless you hadn't fallen on your face, of course, that might.
Yeah. Well, then you fast forward, and then 8 years later, oh, we're here again. What if I weren't as good as the last time? What if I fall over? What if I let everyone down? What if we don't do as well as the year before? And it's all those things that I wouldn't want to do cheerleading these days. When I was on Worlds, when I was on Black, we just rocked up, I had no idea. We were going out, we did some cheerleading. I honestly, they were the days.
You know what?
Just turned up, you give it a go. Not anymore. Serious.
Somebody asked me a week or so ago, like, I'd just done a Zoom class and they were like, does anyone have any questions for Ant? Which I was not expecting at all. I'm like, oh, good, it's quiz time. And somebody asked, like, do you enjoy going to Worlds? And it was like a, I don't know, 10-year-old kid. And I had to stop and think, I'm like, God, I mean, I wouldn't call it fun. I do like going out there. Obviously, I love the States anyway. So I like being out there. I don't like what it costs me. I'm not a Disney fan, so I don't enjoy that side of it. ICU is pretty fun most of the time. That's a good atmosphere and all that stuff. Yeah. Is a good time. But once the All-Star World kicks off, I don't have time to have fun. It's just exhausting. There's always something on your mind. I mean, maybe for an hour, like if your team nails it, that first hour afterwards, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Or you get a good result and you're celebrating. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's tough.
That one of the biggest things is not having a crowd as well. I don't think the Americans understand how lucky they are to be able to have a crowd.
Oh, not all of them. I mean, I've been an American team that didn't have any supporters in there. So,
but when you look at those big, well, what you have at home, all the youths and the juniors come down to watch, and then you have people from other gyms. And I think obviously here, for all the Worlds teams in the UK, there are a lot of gyms that still don't have Worlds teams, and everyone's sort of on your side for you to do well. Especially my favorite thing is the bid round at SC National. Everyone's down in that mosh pit, just wanting people to succeed. And that is not recreated at the most important moment of the year, which is the World Championships, where you really need all that good energy and you need that crowd behind you. You probably have you have your coaches and a couple of parents that have managed to get the time off work.
Yeah, unless you're in large senior or large senior co-ed.
But that's the difference at ICU. Because obviously we're all unified for the ICU. The crowd at ICU is just electric. Obviously, the crowd was two parents, Darren Geddes and John Mellon, really took on the role of building the crowd presence over the past few years, and it's incredible. Like the noise the English people make at the World Championships just puts the whole thing to shame.
We're quite infamous now, I think. I think the staff know we're coming, and they sort of, especially the last few years, I've been backstage and the staff are like, can't wait for you guys because your crowd is nuts. Even the guys, trying to control the crowd are just joining in usually, because what else can you do? We have, that's the point. It's amazing. It gives me chills now just thinking about it. I love it. All right. Let's go one more question. You've sort of touched on a lot of this stuff anyway. You've been called the Donald Trump of British cheerleading.
I don't think.
No, just by me.
Okay.
Outspoken, brash, controversial, sometimes very heavily tanned. So, I'm joking, but you're certainly
I have been heavily already.
A controversial and outspoken person. How do you deal with that? I mean, how's that? Have you embraced the villain role over the years, or is it something that you don't like and you feel misunderstood?
I don't feel misunderstood. Like, some of the comments are completely and utterly warranted. I think that, I don't know, because I'm not an innocent individual by any means. And I'm not heavily online. I read the forum. I sometimes comment on the forum, honestly. The people that pay it mind and get upset because something was said on the forum blows my mind. It's not real. But I have been dragged through the mud in there, called out on Facebook, not really into social media. By the time something's happened on Facebook, I've either set off it myself and, wrote something I shouldn't have wrote, and then just wait for the the proverbial stuff to hit the fan, or I'm late to it a few days because I've just not been online and I ain't interested. I'm not bothered. People can make of what they make of me. Tori often has referred over the years, what will people think? And I've always said, as far as I'm concerned, as long as our customers are happy and our kids are happy, then I have nothing to apologize for. And I think a lot of the times that I feel like when I have outspoken is because I felt there's some sort of injustice that needs fixing. Because as much as everyone is in this because they love it, I don't get that wrong. But my grandma always says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Doesn't mean that you're doing a good job or it's adequate or that you are providing a decent service. And I am loud and I'm prepared to use my voice and tell people that, I just don't think this is good enough. And people don't like hearing that sometimes. I appreciate it. And if you want to come at me and tell me to my face, I think you're out of order, I'll welcome the conversation. But if you want to write online, I probably won't read it and I don't care. But I don't mind. It's not, I can't say the reputation I've got is unwarranted, but I can tell you that I am not an evil person, mainly because Angela Green, who, as far as I'm concerned, is a saint, she says I'm not, so therefore I am not.
Well, if that's the measure, that's
isn't it? If Angela Green says that you're an okay person, then you are. And I think she knows me. Like, people who know me and will sit down and talk to me, they see that I am doing this because I care and I'm just trying to do a good job. And I get lost along the way, like most human beings. But I do accept most of the time my face looks sour and I look unapproachable. And most times at competitions, I probably am unapproachable because I've got a legality and I'm angry. I'm just stand there venting at myself. So I can get it. I get it. I understand it. Won't be angry. Not really bothered.
Interesting, because I think you mostly actually sort of keep your head down and keep to your own business. And I think a lot of the time, I don't think you're actively out there trying to, be outspoken, and I don't think you really do a lot of, public stuff, if you like. Like I say, you're not on social media being loud. You're not really standing up and talking to people. So, I think that you get a lot of misunderstanding when you're someone who does sort of just do your own thing, but you're very passionate about what you do and you get stuck into that. Then people are only looking from the outside. And it's like, it's what I used to talk about with parents who'd sit in the viewing room back when I had a gym with a viewing room, and they'd watch practice and they'd get all upset about things they thought were going on. I'm like, well, the problem is you're watching the movie with the soundtrack off. So you're only getting half the story. You're interpreting what you're seeing without actually hearing what's going on. And I think for you, most people, like you say, when they know you, I mean, I don't know many people that know you and don't like you.
Yes, like, I am very charming.
A lot of it's just impression.
I appreciate, though, that I made, when I was much younger, about 8 years ago, I've made many mistakes. They were very visible. It was very loud. And I've been held accountable since, and rightly so. Like, I would have been the person the other way around. If you've seen what he's done, never forgive him. That would have been me as well. So I get it. I think now that I've got that reputation, it's hard to shake a reputation. And most of the time I'm wearing some sort of garish jacket or obnoxious shoe choice. So it's not hard to miss me sort of flouncing around the hallways with a score sheet, wagging it, and, you can see where I'm going. But generally, yeah, I'm not someone that talks to people or socializes at events, really. If I know you, I'll say hello. If I don't know you, then I'll be finding somewhere honestly quiet to sit down and avoid the world before I go throw up in the toilets again, before we go to the warm-up room, because I'm a nervous wreck. I hate competitions. If I could just practice, I would. Actually, that's a lie. I hate competitions where other people are attending. If I'm in a division on my own, I will be having the best day because I know I'm going to win. No one's going to be disappointed. But yeah,
if you don't hit your routine, you'd be disappointed.
Well, that's a good point. Worlds 2000, the last Worlds 2019, Team England All-Girl Junior, we won, but we didn't hit. I had the most miserable day. It was really difficult because I was going around congratulating all the children. They were like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "I'll be fine." like trying to lie through my teeth as they enjoy this experience. I was heartbroken because I'd seen the day before they had been flawless. And I'm my biggest critic, and most of all the cheerleading I watch is horrendous. And one of the worst things in my own gym is I describe everyone's cheerleading as horrendous, including my own. But there have been a few moments where the cheerleading has been beautiful to watch. And the day before for Team England, it just took my breath away. Like, I would say I cried, but I didn't cry. But if I'd been emotional person, I would have cried. It was that good. And then for them not to be able to recreate that the next day in front of the world it's just a travesty to not see how exceptional those kids were. And they were kids. It was the junior team. Like, they were incredible talents. And I think people forget, especially for Team England Junior, most of them had never been abroad. None of them, bar a few, had ever trained in Orlando. And I think that is the biggest shock to anyone's system, because the gyms aren't air conditioned. It's humid. It's awful. Most children try and have an asthma attack in the first 2 minutes because they can't breathe, because it's just, but they took it all in their stride and they were knocking out the park. And for them not to be able to knock it out the park on the day is just, and they won't get another chance. It's over. Done.
Yeah, that's so galling when you feel like you're just leaving something on the table, and yeah, it was there, and you're...
Whilst with all-star cheerleading, it starts again. Start again, give it another go. You know, maybe on a different team, but you were the same kids. Whilst with England, it's you with people all across the country. You're not going to get that experience ever again. It was ruined, and that is hard.
Well, not ruined, because you did still win. Can I just remind you on that
yeah,
one? But
yeah.
I'm sure the kids don't look back and go, that was just the worst experience.
No, I know.
Throw the ring down the toilet.
They were, but they each know that they have done better. And but what they can do is they have a ring and a medal, and they also have the memories of doing it on the football field in front of the crowd. And I have the video. It looks great. And yeah, you are right, but competition, I don't like competitions. Not for me.
No, I'm with you. It's I mean, yeah, just years of it, and they've gotten to me to the point I don't have time to have fun anymore. Like you say, I don't enjoy it anymore. They've gotten so busy and everything else. And that's the natural way. Obviously, there's 10 times more teams now than there used to be. We can't be playing chicken in the hen house between every division or whatever.
Do you remember longest live and highest toss?
Yeah. I mean, I think it still happens some places. I don't really know. Maybe we're going to the wrong competitions, but mostly it's just so busy. It's exhausting. You're strung out. You're there from 7 a.m. until 10 at night, and you haven't eaten, and yeah,
the food's normally awful at all the competitions. You can never get good food.
Oh, start me on that. And then you're worrying about your score sheet, whether you need to challenge something, and if you're going to get it right, and who knows what else is going on. It's just tough. It's stressful. So yeah, I'm with you on the competitions thing. It's been a long time since I've really could say I enjoy competitions. I used to. It's sad, really, to say. But anyway, we'll wrap it up there. I think that's plenty that anyone needs to hear from both of us, probably, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Normally, I'd ask you, to give your social medias and stuff, but you probably don't want people following you, do you?
No, thank you.
Everyone can go follow Unity Allstars, I guess.
Yeah, of course they can. At Unity_Allstars. And we're on the Instagram. I think we have the Twitters. I don't know. Can't use Twitter. We're definitely on Facebook.
Definitely
give us a
significant
follow.
online presence. I'm sure people won't struggle to find Unity Allstars. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Anthony.
I'm sure people are going to love listening to this and getting insights into the mind of Dave. Maybe people that have written you off will give you a second chance now because they thought you were crazy, but actually you're not.
No, I am insane.
Fair point. All right. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye.